We're back. This is Money TV. I'm Don Baillargeon. Thanks for staying with us. Joined in studio now by Brian Altunian, Chief Operating Officer of Platinum Studios, symbols PDOS. Brian, good to see you again.
Thank you, Don.
Well, we had a nice little chat last week. We were talking about the wrapping of filming in New Orleans of Dead of Night.
Right.
And now, of course, you go through the editing and the sound effects and everything else, and we'll probably see the movie sometime in 2010.
Right.
I actually had one guy ask me already if the trailer was available.
Of course. We get that question all the time, too, by the way. Yeah.
But new project. What's up next?
Well, the great thing about finishing Dead of Night, and again, I think we've had this conversation. It was really a good transition for us because, you know, Platinum started. We have this very large library of comic book material that we've been licensing out to studios and you know, to networks to create television programs and feature films. And then moving into Dead of Night was the first time we moved into production. And it really, that evolution is significant in the entertainment industry because all of a sudden the fact that you become a production company and the ability to go out and get independent financing for films really makes you, really lands on people's radar.
Sure.
The great thing for us is that it's also created momentum in the studio projects, and we're thrilled. We finally this week got a revised script on Cowboys and Aliens, and it's a very and the funny thing is that I can tell you we got it, and then I can't tell you anything about it. It's one of those. It's under lock and key. It's been encoded. But I will say this: this draft was written by Alex Kurtzman, Roberto Orsi, and Damon Lindelof. And Damon Lindelof is a guy who created Lost. Is now in this group of talent. They've put a lot of great projects together. In fact, those names may sound familiar if you saw Star Trek recently. Those are the names up there as the writers and producers of Star Trek. The names are up there on the upcoming on Transformers 2. And they're working on very, very big projects. I will tell you that what I can say about Cowboys and Aliens is it's going to be a big project.
Well, okay, so I know you can't tell us too much about the script. I know you've read it. Did you like what you saw?
I did very much. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good point number one.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned that the people involved with Cowboys and Aliens were also involved in Star Trek. We saw recently that Star Trek has eclipsed a $200 million mark in box office, and this is during a recession.
Absolutely. And the other thing about it is it's like the 13th or 14th film in that Star Trek film franchise.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a brilliant move what the writers did in going back to the time before the TV series, because it just kind of refreshes the whole thing and gives them the opportunity to do 5 or 6 more movies with these new characters. Absolutely,
absolutely. And again, it's nice because they gave the audience that has been following Star Trek for 30, 40 years. They gave them the winks and the nods, and at the same time, they made it a broad enough picture that it was accessible to people who may not have been Star Trek fans or followers, or even our younger generation. My kids loved the movie, and when we were laughing at the inside jokes and the lines, Bones and McCoy, they're like, why is that so funny? And yet they enjoyed the film as it was the first time they'd ever seen it. And the great thing about comic book movies, they have the same capability. We give the winks and the nods to the fans of the comic book material, at the same time make a broad enough movie that's appealing to a large audience. And these guys, with DreamWorks as our partner and Imagine involved as well, we're going to make it's going to be a very big event movie for us.
So, and this is kind of a pointed question. I'm sure you answer this question every day, but when you have what will ultimately be an approved script, is there ever a timetable as to when you go from approved script to actual principal photography?
It generally varies. It's going to depend on the schedule of the director that's chosen and then obviously the leads. What happens though is once it starts to gain momentum, they set that in motion. It can happen fairly quickly. A lot of times it'll depend if the director is one of those folks that likes to get started right away and move right into principal photography, knowing that effects are going to be added later. Sometimes you have directors who tend to do a lot of that in pre-production, so they're longer pre-production periods. So it will depend on ultimately who the director is. But for us as a company, the news about this project coming out, we'll start to be able to report on progress as it happens, as we're allowed. We have a lot of partners in this, big partners. As we said, Steven Spielberg and Ron Howard and those folks, and so they're very particular about how we release news about that. However, as progress gets made, director gets added, leads and talent get added, we'll put out news about that. And just so you know, one of the things for us as a company, there's a fairly significant rights fee that comes to the company immediately. And when that's right upon the beginning of principal photography. So once that thing moves forward, it's great for our bottom line. It's going to be great for us as far as momentum in the industry. It's just going to continue that role for us.
Well, Brian, in 15 seconds or less, what does it feel like to be a Hollywood player?
It's pretty fun. I have to say, it's pretty fun. Fun for us and fun for the company. And we've been doing this for a long time. It's nice to finally start to see some accolades and see things happen.
Platinum Studios, PDOS is a symbol. Brian, thanks so much.
Thank you, Don.